Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'll be showing us how to make this beautiful dress with this back. Yo, this back is so gorgeous, man. So now we're going to start with transferring our pattern block onto our pattern paper, our basic block onto our pattern paper. And on my Instagram page I showed how to make your pattern blocks. I'm going to put the link down below. So first, when you want to transfer your pattern block onto your pattern paper, we're going to be transferring the front first. Make sure that front you have a straight grain line. You know, most times the center front is always on fold, and even if it's not on fold, just make sure you have a straight grain line to transfer. So now we're going to be transferring our front and we're going to be transferring our back. And when you want to transfer, make sure you have something like a tape or something that can actually hold down your block onto your pattern paper. Here I'm using our push pins to hold down our block so that you get the accurate pattern. So now let's transfer our pattern. We are done contouring, and how to contour is also on my Instagram page. The link will be below. So now where you want your bustier to start from, I want mine to start from 6 inches. So I already marked 6 inches. That's where it's going to start from. That will be my over bust. So you mark your 6 inches. If you want it to be 5, if you want it to be 7, however low you want it to be, just mark it right there. So now we have to contour that our over bust. So we're going to be contouring with 0.75 on each side. That's what we're going to do. So now I'm done contouring and I want to move my armhole inwards by 1 inch. You can move it however you want to move it. You can use 1.5, you can use 0.5, you can use 0.75, however you want it. But I don't just want it to start from the regular armhole. I want it to go in a little. So I'll be using my French curve to curve that inwards. So after curving it, so now that is our new armhole. We're not using the other armhole anymore. We already have a new armhole. So now this is our back. I've already transferred the back also, and I'm removing our darts from our armhole because I'll not be using the darts. I'll not even be using the upper part, but still I just want to show you that you remove the darts. So we're going to cut out our pattern paper for our front. We're going to cut it out. So this armhole for our front, we're going to use it to get the armhole for our back. So you just have to place it on your back pattern to get the accurate armhole. You can also measure. You don't have to necessarily place the front on the back. So this will be where our back will start from. You can go lower at the center back, but I want it to be straight like that. So I'm also going to come in by 1 inch. Remember, we came in by 1 inch for our front armhole, so we have a different armhole now. So I also came in by 1 inch for our back armhole. While transferring the block on our pattern paper, I eliminated the darts, the waist dart for the back, because I will not be making use of the dart. I left the front, but I will not be making use of the back dart. That's why I eliminated it. If you can see, there's no darts on the waist. So now we're going to work on our center back. the style, the center back, we're going to use elastic for our center back. Not all, but part of our center back, we're going to use elastic for two parts of our center back, and it's also going to have a belt. So here I am measuring what I want to use for the center back. I used 4 inches for this center back first, but I realized I think is a little bit, I want that point to be wider, so I'm going to increase it again by 1 inch as opposed to this 4 inch that I use. But first I'm going to like mark where we wouldn't be needing. You are going to label your pattern. There we have our side back, there we have our center back, so you already know which is for which. And you know that your armhole also, you won't be using the old armhole, is the new armhole. So now I'm going to increase that my center back. So now I already added 1 inch to that center back. So the old, sorry, to the line, so the old one, we don't need it again. I would be using this new line. I crossed the old line, so we won't be using that one again. So now we're going to divide the first one, that our center back, we're going to divide it into 3 parts. So now we're going to use 2 inches for each. One part we have 2 inches, the other part too we have 2 inches, we have 2 inches. So I'm just going to divide it into 4 parts. That's 2 inches on each part. That my back, the lower part is actually 8 inches, or I think 8 inches, 7.5 inches thereabout. So we're going to divide it into 4 parts like that. So I used 2 inches each. So now we're just going to rule our line. So now we're just going to roll the lines so that we would be able to label our boxes. So the first one we're going to use elastic for the first one. The second one, there's going to be a space between the first and the second one. I actually made a mistake on that part. That part is actually meant to be free. So we're going to have the second elastic on the third box, and we're going to have our belt on the last box. I actually wrote rope there, but what I mean is belt. So we're going to use belts for that last one. So now I've labeled everything. Please make sure you label, and please note that on these patterns I did not use seam allowance. There's no seam allowance on these patterns at all. So when you are doing your pattern, if you want to add seam allowance, fine, or if you want to add seam allowance while cutting your fabric, is also fine. So now we're just going to cut out our patterns, and please, you have to also label your seam allowance to join the fabrics together. So now let's cut out our patterns. So now we're going to label our seam allowances. So for our side back, I'll be using 1.5 inches for our seam allowance. For the waist, you'll be using the 0.5 inch. You know, we're going to add it to the lower part. For our armhole, 0.5. For the bust, the over bust as well, we'll be using 0.5. And for this elastic, you know, we're going to cut it out. I'm going to be using 0.5, and we're going to cut them on fold. The center back is cut on fold. There's no zipper in this dress. We're just going to cut everything on fold. So now make sure you label for that center that we divided our center back and our side back. Also make sure you label with 0.5. Our first elastic to join the other part, 0.5 all through. We're going to cut it out on our fabric. So this center back, like I said earlier, we're cutting on fold. You are not cutting just one. And this unfold that we're cutting, this our center back, you know that is half of our center back. So we have to cut double of it. So if it's 6, if it's 5, whatever you have, you're going to double it, and it's on fold. So like now we have 5 inches here, so we're going to have 20 inches when we open it up, because you know we're going to insert elastic, so it has to be more than our center back. That's why we're making it on fold. That's how we're doubling it rather. So now we're going to add our seam allowances, 0.5 on each side, like up and down. We're adding 0.5. There's no zipper on this. So now we're done cutting our front, our back. This is our elastic, I've not cut the rope, so we're going to cut the rope later, the belt, sorry. So we already have our front, our back, and we're going to use our stay to stay both parts. You can stay your lining as well, but I already stayed our main fabric. So now what we're going to do is we're going to join our bustier, our front bustier. We're going to join each sides. So after joining, we'll see how it looks like. So before we join our bodice, let's talk about the lower part. The lower part is actually, I'm making use of half circle. So after the half circle, we're also going to have gathers. The gathers is not included in the half circle, but we're going to also have gathers. So yeah, I'm making a paper illustration. But if you want to do half circle, you know, is your waist circumference divided by 3.14. Make sure you add your seam allowance before you divide by 3.14. So yeah, I'm just using 4 inches just for a paper illustration. I want to show you how it's going to look like. So we're going to use our half circle right here, and I'm going to show you how I'm also going to make the gathers. So for our gathers, I did not have enough fabric, so I'm just going to double whatever we have for the lower part of our half circle. I'm just going to double it. If you have enough fabric, you can do like 2.5 of it, you can do like 3 of it, but I didn't have enough, so I'm just going to use double of that. So you see, I already measured that one, double of it, and also I'm going to times it by 2 to have what I'll use for our gathers. So now I'm going to also cut it on our paper and show you how it will look when we place it on our paper. So now we're done cutting the gathers. What you have to do is I just gather this one. You can make it short, you can make it long, you can make a long dress or a short dress. So we're just going to gather it all around to get what you want. You can just know the length you want for your dress to determine what you use. So this is our fabric now. I've cut the circle, I've cut the long one for the gathers, and now we're done gathering. If you notice, I didn't really gather it because I didn't have enough fabric for it. So now I've joined our bustier for our front. This is our front bustier, that is our back, and like I said, I only stitched our main fabric, and I'm also using the same fabric for our lining, but I did not stitch the lining. I've also joined the lining for the front. Make sure that you open your seam after joining. It makes it fit well. I'm not putting any cup in this, I'm not putting any bra foam. I'm just going to sew it like that. So if you want, you can add your cup. If you want, you can add your bra foam, but I won't be adding anything to it. So after that, we're going to join our center back. This is the center back, the boxes that we cut out. This is our center back. And make sure that when you want to join this, you are leaving space for turning of your lining, and also we're going to be making use of inseam. So this is our belt. I've already cut out our belt. You know, your belt will be 2 pieces. Your belt is not just one, your belt will be 2 pieces because you have to actually tie it at the center. So now for this, we have like 20 inches. Like I said earlier, our belt, you can use anything for your belt. You don't have to actually follow the 20 inches for your belt. If you want your belt really long, fine. So our elastic, I'm making use of the 1.8 elastic or 1.75. We're going to put our elastic inside those boxes, and we're using, you can use half of the elastic, like you can use 10 inches, but I decided to use like 9 inches because I want it to be really good, so to be really firm. So now we're going to hold down the elastic at one side and move it to the other side and also hold it down. So now we'll move our elastic to the other parts. So we're going to also hold it down at the other parts. So now we are done. This is what we have for our elastic. Like I said, you can use half of it. It depends on your body though, but I reduced from half. Like the half is meant to be 10. Instead of 10, I used 9 inches because of the firmness. I want it to be really firm. I don't want it to be like having this opening. So now you are going to measure 0.5 for turning of your lining. We are going to measure 0.5. So it's from that 0.5 that you are going to place this your center back. Make sure you leave that 0.5, because if you don't leave the 0.5, there's nothing you use to turn your lining. So we're going to leave 0.5. We're going to sew it down. You can pin everything down. So we're going to pin it down. You know, we did 2 inches. So after that first 2 inches, we're going to leave another 2 inches because that place will be open. We're not placing anything there. So that's when you place your second elastic. So you place your second elastic, which is also 2 inches. You place it right there. You can also pin it down for easy access, but if you know you don't like pinning, just do what you have to do. So we're going to pin it down, but I want to show you how it looks like. So now we have our 2 inches, we have our 2 inches space, and also we're going to place our belt. So at that belt, make sure that you leave your 0.5. You leave your 0.5 on your waistline. So we're going to place our belts after our other elastic. So we're going to sew it down now. So now we are done. So this is what we have after sewing them together. We already have our elastic at our center back. We already have our belts also at the center back. So now we're going to join our front and our back, and you remember I added 1.5 seam allowance. So we're going to join our front bodice to our back bodice with our 1.5 inches. So now if you join one side, you can measure to be sure of your bust size and your waist size before you take the other 1.5. So yeah, I still have what I have. So now we're done. I've already joined the front to the back, and this is what we have. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be adding, you can use your pattern to confirm what you have and make sure that you actually have the accurate thing. You can, for your the boxes that we cut, you can actually use it to cut your elastic. Like now that we have 5 inches, you can just, from this 5 inches, just place your elastic on it and just remove 1 inch from the elastic. If you don't want to be like measuring, just use this your center back to cut your elastic and you get whatever you want. And here you see we still have our 2 inches for our elastic. So now this is our sleeve. I use 7 inches. If you want it to be off shoulder, you just have to measure wherever you want it to be off. If it's 4 inches that you have there, you mark 4 inches. But here I am using 7 inches. It's more than what we removed from our sleeve, and that's because I want to add elastic to it, and this is the length I also want for my sleeve. So now I'm going to hem the upper part and the lower part. I added more fabric to the lower part because the length was not enough for me. So now I decided to add smoky thread to the lower part of the sleeve where I joined another fabric. I decided to add smoky thread, so I've added the smoky thread and our elastic as well. I decided to do half of the elastic to make it so you can put it on your shoulder and you can also make it off. So now we're going to fix that. So now we're going to fix our sleeve to our fabric first before we turn our lining, because I don't want any rough edge on our sleeve. So we're going to fix our sleeve before we turn our lining. I'm going to also join our our lining, our front and our back piece. We're going to join our lining as well. So now I'm done joining the lining. I want to turn our fabric, our lining with our fabric, and I'll fix the sleeve. So now we're going to join our lining with our fabric. Please pay attention to how I'm actually going to turn this. You know, it has no opening whatsoever at the front or at the back or at the side. So here, the upper part, we're going to pin it together. Make sure that your seam allowances align. Like that, your seam allowance at the front bodies, make sure it aligns. So we're going to pin the upper part first. When you want to pin your sleeve, you are going to push your sleeve inwards. Like you are going to make sure that you sandwich your sleeve in between your main fabric and your lining. So you are just going to pin it like that. You are going to pin the armhole all around. We're going to pin it all around. We're going to do it for the other side as well. So we're going to sew our upper part first. Make sure your seam allowance is also aligned. See here, our seam allowance is aligned. Make sure your seam allowance is aligned. Your side seam aligns, the upper part align. So we're just going to pin it all around and sew the upper part. We've joined the upper part. So for the center back, we're going to also pin that our center back. Be careful while pinning that center back. We've joined the upper parts for everything. So that center back, just make sure that the way we sandwiched our sleeve between the main fabric and the lining, that's the way you sandwich the elastic between the main fabric and the lining, so you'll be able to sew that center back together. So now I'm done. Make sure you notch the upper part. Make sure you notch your center back. If you see that you took more than 0.5, make sure you notch it and make sure you press it flat. I've not pressed it here, but I just have to show you how it looks like. You can see that it's only the waist part that we have the rough edge, because we're going to attach the lower parts to it. So this is the inside, like everything. There's not any rough anything inside. This is inseam. Look at the armhole. Just look at that. Like, so this is how you achieve everything. Look at our center back, look at our armhole. So the side of the armhole, just make sure you weave that one so you don't have any rough edge or you don't have any fabric that's actually fraying. So now I fixed the lower part to our waist. I mean, I didn't say earlier that I added extra 5 inches to my waist measurements, because I also want to put elastic at the center back. So I'm going to use an invisible zipper at that center back, and I'm also going to put elastic at the waist of the center back. So I also added pockets to it. I decided to just add pockets to it. I didn't have enough fabric, that's why I used a black fabric to add my pockets, to use for my pockets. You have use the same fabric, but if you don't have, you can use another fabric, as long as it will not show after wearing the dress. So now we're going to sew our center back. Leave the space for your zipper. So we'll sew it down to the hem line, to our gathers. We'll sew it down and we're going to put our invisible zipper. So now this is the casing. You have to create a casing for your elastic for the center back waist. So create a casing for your elastic. You can just like 0.75, since we're using 0.5 elastic. So now I'm done putting the invisible zipper. Please make sure you use a foot so that it will be neat like this. Make sure you use a foot for your zip. So we're going to create this is the casing for our elastic. So we're going to put our elastic in the casing. And like I said earlier, if you want to put elastic, make sure you're using like half of your elastic, or you can even subtract one from that half, so that it will be really firm on your waist. So now we're going to put our elastic into our casing. Now we are done. Please make sure you press your dress well. I didn't press the upper part well, and make sure you weave the lower part, the inner of the lower part. Please like, subscribe for more videos. I'll be in the comments if you have any questions, and also please follow me on my IG page at tisa_labels. Just look at that back is so beautiful. Please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.